I came in 1950, there was a group of about 30 of us, and I came expecting to do classics, Latin, Greek, and modern and ancient history, and they weren't offering Greek. I could do Latin, and I had to find two other subjects, and I decided on history and eventually Spanish. Of course, the one who inspired me most was Elsa Cabaya, who was absolutely brilliant. In fact, she was the only lecturer whose lectures I attended, even though they were in the morning at 8 o'clock, but she was remarkable. And when I graduated in '53, I was offered to go back. My old school, Harrison College, invited me to come back, and I went back there. I didn't know what I wanted to do, so I said I would come back for a year. And at the end of the year, I left. And I was offered, as I said, a scholarship to Merton, offered by my tutor. When I couldn't accept that, he offered me to come here and set up the sixth form at Excelsior. And I did for the 3-year contract. And in actual fact, that was a wonderful experience because the students used to say that I couldn't look at them. It was a co-ed school, which I never experienced before, and they said that I looked terrified of them. I couldn't look at the girls, and I couldn't look at them because they were almost just 3 or 4 years younger than I was. Some of them were 18 because that was what Excelsior stood. They got children into school at a late age, and it was very successful because 2 of my students won scholarships accounted here, and they became lecturers here in classics and one in mathematics. But he did Latin with his mathematics, and they excelled. Earl Brown and Loxley Lindo. Okay. And then there were 2 or 3 of the girls who also came and lectured here. And I went to England. I decided I wanted to become a writer. I got into the literary group with George Lamming and Selborne, and the one who impressed me more was the Jamaican chap, Andrew Salkey, who was an excellent, wonderful human being, really. Then I got married, and we went out to Nigeria. My wife was a doctor, and she went out to the hospital there, and that was an experience which you could never ever read or learn from any book. And I met Ojukwu and some of the political aspirants there. And my son was born in Nigeria, and he considers himself a Biafran even to this day. In many ways, I thought that you could never get anything like democracy, because democracy is a system of government that must function on the basis of communication. And if you can't speak somebody's language, you can't communicate. So that there was no sort of structure for it, because religious, there were different languages, there were different aspirations, there were different. And in fact, that's the problem even today. That's why Nigeria is still not the first world country that it should have become, because breakdown of communications, and both physical and mental and so forth, and linguistic.
So you left Nigeria when?
I went there for 2 years. I went out in '63, and I went back to London in '65. And then I went back to England to teach. Then I decided I wanted to get back home and make my contribution.
So you went back to Barbados?
I went back to Barbados, sort of the first school, secondary school I went to, not Harrison College, but Gondomere. Mm-hmm. And those were 3 of the wonderful years, and I decided to become a solicitor, and I did the Law Society exams in England, qualified in 2.5 years, and had to wait for a little time before I could get called to the bar, because I had done my exams too quickly. And then I set up a law firm of Smith & Smith, with my brother, who was a politician.
You've been practicing for 40 years?
45 years now. I qualified in 74, so it's 49, so I'm my
So,
45th
and you
year.
say you're a QC now
I'm
in
a QC,
Barbados?
yes. I made a QC, I think, in 2005. Between 86 and 89, I was Barbados' ambassador to London, to the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Denmark, Sweden, and Finland, to Cyprus, to Israel, and also to the UN in Vienna. And I was there for 3 years. And then I found that politically, I couldn't subscribe to what was going on in the party which I had been associated with. So I left that and went back into my law practice.
What do you think is the university's main contributor to Caribbean development, given that that is its mandate?
Well, it's only now coming about that we have to make decisions in the new world that has come about within the last 4 or 5 years in the whole economic and political systems. And unfortunately, there's not that integration between the leaders that one would require to impact in the way that I feel we should impact, as I say. And we can do it. Well, 3 things: freedom of movement, common currency, and then some form of political integration that can unite the region intellectually, philosophically, and emotionally as a people.
And you think UWI still has a part to play in that?
Is the university that has made the thrust and has to make the thrust and has to inspire all these things in that sort of vein. And they can do it. And what I've seen here today makes me feel that they're well on their way to achieve that.